Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another day of Charmed Chats and Happily Ever After Sprints, where we're talking to authors all month about fantasy romance, playing some games, and spending some time writing. I'm Shannon. I write under the pen name of SC Huston, and you're here on my YouTube channel where I publish content about my writing self-publishing journey along with weekly writing sprints. I'm also part of the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast with Ben Pick from Running to Write and Morgan Lee, and I'm the founder and conference chair of the AuthorTube Writing Conference heading into its third year. Besides what I do here on YouTube, I'm a fantasy, romance, and YA fantasy author with a passion for writing about broken characters who face adversity to become better versions of themselves. And there may or may not be a dragon, but there's always love to find. And today I am joined by Ophelia Bell. We're going to learn a little bit about her writing and one of her books, and we're going to play a game and, of course, do the sprint. So I will now do her bio. Ophelia Bell is the Prism Award-winning author of semi-paranormal and contemporary romance. Ophelia loves strong heroes, especially if they're dragons. I love that. But believes the world needs more strong heroines, so has made it her mission to make that happen. When not writing, she can be found walking laps around her neighborhood while listening to romance audiobooks, binge watching TV shows, and playing video games. She has a particular weakness for fantasy RPGs, the kind with dragons, of course. Ophelia grew up on a farm in North Carolina where her inspiration to write came from a hand-penned short story written by her aunt about a girl with exceptional hearing who helps a dragon with indigestion. Airplane engines evidently aren't very good for dragon tummies. She now lives in Los Angeles with her tattooed husband and 7 attention-whoring cats. One of them is exceptionally large and might actually be a dragon in disguise. So welcome to my channel, Ophelia. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself and add anything else that you might want to tell everyone about?
Hi, everyone. I don't know what else to add. That pretty much covers it. I mean, dragons are everything.
Yeah, I love that.
So, yeah, there might actually be dragons everywhere in my books. So
we were talking a little bit backstage, and I was telling you about my YA fantasy trilogy, and it's based off of Irish mythologies. Well, in 3rd century Ireland, by the myths that were happening at that time, there weren't any dragons left except for one, Pashta, because Christianity was taking over Ireland, and the priests were killing all the dragons in the myths. So, and Pashta was killed by St. Patrick. But Pashta didn't have wings, but I put Pashta in my story, and I gave him wings. And I realized that I was like, I really have a thing for dragons. I should just write about dragons. So my romance fantasy series is heavily on the dragon aspect. But yeah, let's say hello to everyone who's come in already. Rachel was first. Hello. Chaos Gremlins take over. Hello. And Ophelia said hello. So there is Ophelia. If you guys want, do you have a YouTube channel like with content, or do you just have a?
I do. I don't have a lot of content, but there is one entire audiobook available for people to listen to on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
So go and follow. If you're in the chat, all you have to do is click on the 3 buttons. If you hover over her name in the chat, the 3 buttons to the right, I think it should be able to go to channel. So you can go there when I'll get a link to and drop it in the chat. And then Kiko, hello, how are you? Jennifer, hi. I was trying to say hello to you before my timer was up, but I didn't have enough time. It wasn't going there. Kiko says dragon video games. I agree. Yeah. I love dragons. I have a couple of different t-shirts now with dragons where I think the one I wore yesterday said bookworm ? No, I'm a book dragon or something like that. And then another one says, always be yourself unless you can be a dragon, then be a dragon. But, all right. So we are going to talk about your book, Scion of Chaos, Lords of Pandemonium. Oh, I didn't get a chance to tell you. I am slightly tone deaf, so sometimes I don't say words right, and I may not always hear what you're saying, but usually do okay. But I keep thinking I'm going to say Scion wrong.
Oh, no, that's right.
All right, first question. Oh, and for those in the chat, if you would like to ask the author any questions, it is a great time now or any time throughout the show. Please drop them in the chat and put a Q in the front so we know that that is for the author. So, Ophelia, what drew you to write in the fantasy romance genre?
Well, I've always loved fantasy, but the writing part, the bug sort of started when I was a kid. I loved writing too. I wrote stories, but I never really it never stuck with me. I have a degree in fine art. I never really did very well in English, even though I loved it. But it wasn't until um, about 10 or 11 years ago when I started playing a game called Dragon Age, and then discovered the fan fiction of it, and then started writing my own fan fiction,
Oh,
that it
nice.
kind of like snowballed from there. Yeah, and one of my surprisingly contemporary novels was originally a fanfic from a different video game, um, that is now, it has nothing to do with that game anymore. But yeah,
Yeah,
I have
if it was too close to the game, you wouldn't be able to publish it, right?
no, yeah. It
Yeah.
was an original character fanfic, so it
Okay.
made it easy to kind of polish it off so it didn't resemble the original any. Yeah.
I find it surprising that a lot of authors actually do get their start writing doing fan fiction first before they move into writing their own. Um,
Yeah.
I had never been introduced to the world of fan fiction when I started writing. I didn't even know there was such a thing until I was already writing. But it does seem like a great way to practice your skills and get some feedback like almost immediately. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about your Lords of Pandemonium series, which is influenced by Greek mythologies, which I absolutely love. Can you tell us about the series?
Well, it is the latest series in my bigger world that I've been writing since the beginning. So I have my first um, series that I wrote was a series of novellas, um, called Sleeping Dragons, that I published 10 years ago. And this is actually the 10th anniversary of those books, the first two collections. And I just kept writing in that world. Every time I was trying to come up with a new series idea, it was always going to spin off from the previous one. Like I add characters and then decide these guys need their own story, and so I'll write another series about those people, and then so that I've done that. This is the fourth series technically in this whole world. Actually, no, fifth. There's another one. There's a little trilogy that is
Okay.
part of the world too, and they're all a little different. And I kind of sprinkle in the different myths throughout. Um, it, I'm a total pantser, so it's never really planned. It's just like, okay, I like this character. He's kind of cool, and let's see how I can fit him into this story. Um, and this one was another spin-off, and in the previous series, Fate's Fools, there is a sort of rivalry between two primordial creatures, Fate and Chaos.
I would say because you get that in the beginning of this book. I
Yeah,
felt like that was a bigger world, that there was something else there, but I didn't
yeah.
feel like I was missing out on anything. But I thought, oh, that's a cool story.
hmm and so it was, honestly, I came up with the idea before knowing anything about what it was going to be about, but I just knew I wanted to write about this particular character who is an antagonist in the previous series. So in Fate's Fools, there's the first five books which encompass, a complete arc, reverse harem arc that has the heroine and her five heroes, and then there's four other books that follow it that are standalone Waichu stories. And in book 8 in that series, April's Fools is called, this character appears, and he is sort of one of Chaos's, thugs, basically. Chaos owns a casino in Las Vegas called the
Yeah.
Pan.
Are you talking
And
about Tartarus or?
yeah, this guy is Tartarus.
Okay.
He is Chaos's like chief of security, basically.
Yeah. So I kind of
Um,
got that idea that he's like in charge of all the other people that are underneath Chaos. But yeah.
Sort of, yeah. He fulfills a couple different roles. I mean, he is the chief of security for this casino, and runs that. But he is also the supernatural prison where you know the like gods, the bad guys of the gods and
Yeah.
monsters get sent. So he
Yeah.
he sort of embodies the prison in himself too.
Yeah. I was going to say that the casino was mentioned offhand, I think, in the beginning of the story here, but there's not much else has been said. And I haven't made all the way through the book yet for those in the chat, but I liked the idea, and I don't remember ever reading because I love Greek mythologies. Like the first book I ever stole was a Greek mythology book. It had different mythologies in it. I say stole, but I took it from my school's library and never returned it. I still have it. I have it on my shelf. But not that I go around stealing books, man. That sounds bad. I've never stolen another book. I just love that book so much. But I've never heard of Tartarus being like the prison or being, because what I do know that Tartarus is where like the worst of the gods tend to go, or where the worst of humankind have gone in the mythologies. And it's a place, but I've never seen it represented as a person as well, or some type of a supernatural figure. So I really liked that twist on it. That was really cool.
I like to deep dive into like Wikipedia articles and stuff and just see all the little details and see what sparks. That's usually how I come up with my ideas. That they'll either like spin off of my old stories in some way, but then I'll go look up, like I want to involve, like Typhon is a main character, and Cerberus, and Tartarus, of course, who his name in the human world is Vesh. And Alcides, who is otherwise known as Hercules, is a character in it. And Pan, I forget. There's like,
you have the pig.
Chrysaor, who's
I could say his name.
Chrysaor is Pegasus's brother.
I've seen the name before in the mythologies, but I could never say it.
So these are, and I kind of alter the original stories, because with Greek mythology there's different variations on how it really went, so there are no two versions that are the same. Well, so I'm like, I'll make my own spin on it.
When I did all my research into the Irish myths, there was actually one figure that crossed over with Cronus. And like there was even papers written on how these two characters might be the same between the two myths. They just had two different names. And so then I started including Greek mythology into my books. But Cronus had like 3 different endings to his life. And I had to like pick one that I wanted to go with because he was the big bad overall through my trilogy. So, but yeah, they don't. I do think that's one reason why Irish mythologies are typically you don't get books, because it's not like Greek mythology will have several different like endings or maybe slightly different stories, but they usually cohesive. Not the same way in Irish mythologies. You may have like a woman who is the wife of one guy, but in the next story she's the daughter, next story she's the mom, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So, but
like I monkeyed a little bit with it. Like Fate is one individual, but
it's a 3. I did notice that.
But they have different aspects, but they're not, your typical fates,
We'll check in with the chat here. Christina came in, said hello. We'll be lurking. Thank you for stopping by. I am always the dragon or mermaid or fairy, mostly fairy. Saying hellos. Hello, CB. Came in. Happy time zones all. Thank you. Fanfic are great. So many get their start in fan fiction, learning how to craft a story. Yep, definitely. And Greek names are also easier to pronounce than Irish ones. You are not joking. Not joking. Especially for someone who's tone deaf. Me sitting here trying to even say my names. It took me a long time to say Tuatha De Danann, which is the gods, the pantheon. Although they didn't quite consider themselves gods, they just had powers. But those turn into the fairies that we know of today. So. All right, next question I have for you is, what was your inspiration? And I think you kind of talked about this a little bit. If you want to add more to it, your inspiration for writing the first book, Scion of Chaos. I know you said it was a spin-off from another story.
Right. One of my goals, actually, since I've sort of like worked my way into like the monster romance subgenre, and really enjoy that kind of stuff. And so this was kind of my, take on that. And I wanted to go for the baddest of the bad. All the heroes in this story are prison guards of Tartarus. And they started out as inmates, most of them. And so they don't really have shiny histories. And I just wanted to play with that a little bit, because they all have sort of monstrous aspects in some way, which I go into in the story. The main character himself doesn't so much. He's the most human of them all, I think, aside from Alcides, who is, he's a demigod, but he doesn't have a monster shape himself. Yeah.
So you've kind of touched on the tropes a little bit there. We have the why choose, we have the monster romance. What do you want to talk about? Any other tropes that you may have had that you have throughout the book, or you're going to have in the series?
I don't often write to tropes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some in there. I mean, there's a little bit of Beauty and the Beast DNA, but not a lot. You'll see pieces of it in there, but that's my goal was not to write that type of story, because the heroine does have a little bit of Belle in her in the way the story flows through and how she gets to where she's going. She winds up in Tartarus, and they sort of pamper her a little bit, and there's a library. But yeah, it's hard to say because I don't know where the story is going yet. This is only the first book. I've barely started the second one. And I'm a pantser. I mean, I have a broad idea because there's bad guys. The Titans escaped, and so this is like, they have
setting it up. Yeah,
they have to go.
I'm kind of the same. I don't really outline. I outlined my very first book that I published, and it was so boring to write that book. And the second one I tried to outline, I kept going off script, and I said, "Forget this." I just got mad that I had to keep changing my outline because I kept going a different way.
That way,
yeah, I like to call myself more of like a discovery and intuitive writer. So
I'm exactly the same. The gardener variety, literally. Or
and I'm like you. I know, like in my head where things are going to go. I always know the endings. I know the endings of books. I know the endings of series. And like in the world that I'm in, I know the last series that's going to be written in this world. But I don't know, and I know beginnings, but I don't know how I'm going to get from beginning to end. That's the part that's discovery for me.
Yeah. I have milestones. I know I want the heroine to discover herself. I mean, that's a big part of my stories in general, with the heroines, especially since Fate's Fools. The previous books weren't quite the same, but the heroines who discover that they have some special power or something that they have to grow into or learn how to use, that kind of thing, and the heroes who kind of help facilitate that in some way, help her put the pieces together. In Faithfuls, it was literally putting pieces together for her. And this one, there's a little of that aspect to it too, to help her like become whole. That each of them has a part in making her a whole person.
Yeah, and I can see that. Even, I mean, literally, she's picking up pieces of chaos. So, and figuring out her powers from there. So, yeah, I like all the hints, of what her powers could be.
I don't know what they all are myself yet, so we'll see. That's part of the fun, discovering who these characters are myself. I have ideas because all of the heroes. One of the other inspirations for this was seeing if I could one up myself. I always try to do that with my books. It's like, this is a White Shoes story, but it has by far the most love interests that I've ever written. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
So will the Lords of Pandemonium, that will be pretty much with the same characters all the way through?
Yeah. The first book ends on a pretty big cliffhanger, actually. So it's like each book she'll kind of discover more about a few of the guys, or there's a woman in there too. So
the female. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, she just came into the story.
She's the dragon in the mix. Well, there's her. Typhon's a dragon, but he's kind of a special dragon.
Yeah, because he's got the one big head that's more like a dragon than his snake heads. Yeah. Just want to bring this up. Rachel's like, it's all Greek to me. But Kiko, who's from Germany, she says in German, we say that seems Spanish to me.
Oh, really?
I've never heard that before.
No.
So I love this. I'm going to use it now. So we've talked about how you've got a lot of Greek mythology, and that's been a lot of your inspiration. Have you ever written, or do you ever plan to maybe possibly branch into other types of mythologies?
I do have pieces of other here and there in my Immortal Dragon series. I sort of hint that the Dragon Council, there are 6 immortal dragon siblings, that each of them sort of was believed to be a god at some point. Like 2 of them were Isis and Osiris, and they like presided over Egypt, yeah. And each of the dragons has their own piece of the world that they were sort of gods of, in a sense, you know. And they just adopted whatever deity the human population wanted to bestow them with, basically. So there's an Eastern Hindu aspect for one of the dragons too.
And so you brought this up at the beginning before we came live, where you said that it says Chinese New Year, which is the year of the dragon. Would you have a special edition book, right, that you want to?
I do, yeah. So it is my 10th anniversary of publishing my first dragon books. Sleeping Dragons was the very first set of novellas that I published. And so this is the first time anybody's seeing these special new covers.
Love the colors.
Yeah, so this is a new edition, discrete cover for that book, and then I'm really re-releasing these as a duet. So, and this is the Rising Dragons cover, and they have special art covers underneath.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about these. They're not ready to sell yet.
Okay.
So I'm putting together a special book box. This is the other one. Oops. I put it in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be getting this together. I have all the pieces. Like, I'm still kind of deciding, but there's going to be a book box with other goodies in it that I'm going to offer for sale on my shop soon. So I'm really excited about it.
And I did just drop your shop link in the chat for anybody who wants to look that up.
Thank you.
I did have your YouTube channel down below, linked down below, but I'm also dropping that in the chat. Trying to grab all these links here and drop them. So when do you think those might be ready?
Sometime in March.
March, okay.
Yeah, I'd hope to have them ready by now, but there's always something. I am a terrible planner too, so didn't really get going on it until January. Yeah.
I know, and we were talking backstage about books and what we've published, and you said, "Yeah, I've got a lot of books published." I was like, "How many books do you have published?"
I think Sign of Chaos was like 60 or 61.
Wow.
That's if I count all the novellas. Like each of these volumes here together is like 14 books. So, so you know, sometimes I count them as just 2. Sometimes I count all 14.
I would count them.
Yeah. So, and there's some other ones that I have unpublished since that are no longer available. Some novellas. The audiobook that you can listen to on my YouTube channel, Dragon's Melody, is no longer available to buy as an ebook. You can get paperbacks of it still, and you can get the audiobook elsewhere, but you can listen to it for free on YouTube too.
Why do you not make the ebook available anywhere? Do you mind me asking? You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Well, it's available, but you have to sign up for my newsletter
to get it. Got it.
So yeah, so you can get it for free.
Gotcha.
You don't have to pay for it. Yeah.
We do have some questions from the audience. Rachel, this is one of her favorite questions to ask people and I think it's because I always say this is a hard one, because first you have to pick your favorite book, then you have to pick the hardest part. So what is the hardest part to write in your favorite book?
Oh, I can't pick a favorite.
I always default to the most recent one I just wrote
I
because I don't.
know, yeah. I'm really loving this current story. The hard part to write is like the external plot conflict, like figuring out the all the moving parts of all that external stuff. I'm good at writing internal character driven details, but the conflict of like the the Titans escape from prison and then they have to go hunt them down and find them, and then they pose some threat and I don't know what that is. I can't figure that out yet, but I'm like, there's going to be some big fight, and the fights are always hard to write too.
Yeah, I think fight scenes are
So yeah,
the joy of discovery writing. Yep,
yeah,
something's gonna have done it, but
exactly.
we don't know what yet.
Hmm.
Another question: tips on writing memorable dragon characters.
Oh, I think it depends on what kind of dragon you're writing, um, and how old they are. Like I've written young dragons and old dragons, and the older they are, the more kind of detached from humanity they are. So just keeping in mind how that age thing can create distance, between them, or complicate how they interact with the rest of the world. And it depends on how long they've been out of it too. Like some of my characters have been like hibernating. They hibernate for 500 years at a time. And the immortal dragons, they were out of touch for a lot longer than that. So when they decide we're going to go find mates now, it's harder for them to get back into things. Um, so I think that goes for any like ancient immortal type of character too. But just deciding like what kind of dragon, like mine are the gold hoarding type. They like treasure and shiny things, and for them, the shiniest of the shiny things are their human mates.
Mm, love
And
that.
they traditionally hoarded mates, so they would have multiple human mates. And if you
Mm.
read my Immortal Dragon series, it's the prequel story, Dragon Betrayed, begins in ancient Egypt, and the heroine in that story has her own little horde of humans, but she eventually settles for just three guys. Three's enough.
So,
So
and my dragons are immortal, but I thought about what you said. The older they are, the more detached they'll be. So I was like, okay, what can I do to make them more attached? And I also have in my world, there's a lot of magic, and then humans were a byproduct of mixing too many magics. So they're
mm,
the only like non-magical intelligent species. So they're often, they were often in history easily killed because they're only ones not magical. So the dragons were created to protect the humans.
oh, neat.
So that made that attachment very strong between them.
Mhm.
That's how I kind of got around that one. But um, I haven't written a whole lot. But so the covers you showed with the artwork, the guys have wings. Is that like they shift into dragons, or
Yes, yeah, they're all shifters, and
so they can
that's
have like parts of their shifting form out, like they can have just
yes,
their wings? Okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I like having them be flexible.
Yeah,
So,
I I haven't really dealt with that shifting too much in front of people because right now I have just my ice dragons. There's only 4 of them left, and they have to shift at dawn and dusk all the way because of a curse that they're under.
mhm.
So, but I've thought about that. Okay, when I get to a dragon story that they're not cursed and they can shift at will it be halfway or whatever they want to have come out? Or, I
Yeah,
haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet on that.
I think being consistent is important, but it's fun to play with those kinds of things. Like
Yeah.
my dragons, for example, they're So shifters, one of the issues you run into with them is, are they going to be naked all the time? Are their clothes going to shift
Yes.
with them?
I decided that they're naked when they shift because,
Yeah, and so I do that with some of them,
yeah.
but the dragons, they can just conjure their clothes. Like their breath is magical.
Uh,
And so when they breathe, they can turn it into objects and stuff. Or it can be like a drug they use to do something with, or it can be a weapon, and their fire is like that too. So that solved the clothing problem.
yeah, I thought about that clothing problem in lots of detail before I started writing my story, but I thought, no, I'm not going
Yeah.
to because to me it doesn't make sense that okay, sure, they could shift if they're human into the dragon form, clothes go away because they rip off. But coming back, there's no clothes. And when I was able to use that in my novella, I have a female dragon. I have a male who grows up in a female dominated society where, you know, he's not supposed to look at females like that. And so when she shifts from dragon to back to her hero, he's like, oh my gosh, I got to play with that a little bit.
Yeah, the bears in my world, they're just naked all the time. You know, I have a moment, but the dragons, that they can conjure their own clothes, and their clothes will expand with them, or they'll disappear, or whatever. You know, their clothing is somewhat fireproof. It can be, but I have one scene in Scion of Chaos that I don't know if you've read yet, but I enjoyed it because the dragon in question is wearing normal clothing, not conjured clothing, and he's having a, you know, private moment with his mate, and she's make yourself big because she likes him when he's big, and he's like, but I love these pants. And he would just rip out of them if he shifted.
He's gotta get some bigger pants.
Dragon problems. Yeah.
Yes.
Or stop what he's doing and take them off, you know, but that might ruin the mood.
Or just put on pants that have, like, you know, that belt that's part of the pants, so he can go really tight and then loosen it up as he gets bigger. No, that'd be so unsexy. But Jordan stopped in, say hello. Thank you for stopping by. And I want to send the cover look like, how come it's pretty. So I think he's saying your cover is pretty. Probably the ones with the dragons, I'm thinking. Adega, hello, how are you? Rachel's like, pretty, shiny. And that was in response to your dragons that like to hoard the gold and the people.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a kitty problem happening here.
It's okay.
So, is that?
So, Kiko asks, isn't that a natural consequence when mortal characters at some point become detached? Yeah.
I think it is.
Drat, no monster boyfriends. Dawn and Dust like gargoyles. I do have gargoyles in my story too, but they're a bit different. The bear, and the maiden fair. Oh no, goodbye pants. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into the next part of the show, which is the fun and games. And then we'll do this before we do the writing sprint. And the game is your author's choice. And Ophelia chose True Truths and a Lie book edition. So both of us will share 3 statements about our writing or our books, 2 truths and 1 lie. We'll try to guess which one is a lie for everyone in the chat. We'd love for you to play along and try guessing with us as well. And overall, just have some fun. Let me put the right banner up. So fun and games, truth and lie. And so, Ophelia, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay. Let's see. One of my favorite settings in my books was inspired by an art school I attended. My writing was inspired. Should I just read them one at a time?
Like that?
Yeah, okay. My writing was inspired by a short story a relative wrote about a young Ophelia having an adventure with a dragon. And I have actually visited every location depicted in my books.
Okay, I think it has to be the last one because I don't think you've been to Tartarus.
Yeah, you got me. It would be fun though, I think.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Vanessa. Thanks for stopping in. So nice to see you. She just got done with her live that she was doing. She's a booktuber. We were talking about booktubes and author tube. Cool. She's a booktuber. My one story has an unwilling immortal and so much fun playing with how our character develops and hangs over the course of the story. Hang-ups, yeah, probably, yeah. All right.
I have a kitty who just got spayed, and she was getting out of her little onesie, so I have to put it back on her.
No worries.
Oh no!
She's like, no.
Sorry. No, I hate this thing.
She's like, I'm not happy with you.
I know she hates it, but
yeah, you gotta keep her safe.
I don't want her to lick her
wound. Yeah.
Sorry, sweetie. All right.
I've got 3 cats. The female, I mean, she's old, so it's been a while since we had her spayed. But we have 2 males that we had neutered, and that was fun. They were brothers, so they were both in the cones of shame at the same time.
There we go.
Catastrophe. Unhappy kitty. Yes, unhappy kitty.
She'll be okay. All right.
All right, my turn. All right. I love including pieces of our world mythologies and even fairy tale inspirations in my stories. Next statement. However, I avoid any inspiration from anything written by Hans Christian Andersen. And even though I write in epic fantasy settings, I also include some figures from urban myths like vampires and werewolves.
I think the second one is a lie. I don't think you would really avoid those, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're right.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah, the book I'm writing now is a loosely. I don't really do like a whole lot of fairy tale retellings like straight on, just kind of inspired. Like my first one was like Beauty and the Beast with the dragons. My next one is inspired loosely by The Little Mermaid, which of course is by Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
Yeah. So the other two are right. Right. You can do your next one.
Let's see. I have 7 cats. I can't write unless all 7 cats are in the room with me. And all of my books have a dragon hidden somewhere in them, even the contemporary novels.
I would say the second one. That you had to have all 7 cats with you in the room.
Yeah, no, that's chaos. I mean, I could write about chaos, but I don't want it happening around me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have 3. My old girl, she just lays there, but the other 2, they're constantly like, one's begging me for attention. I pet, 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 pet. He goes away. Then the other one comes over, wants attention. Pet, 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 pet. He goes away. I get about 20 minutes free, no cats, and then it's back to pet, pet, pet. Go away. And the other one coming over, pet. So it's like that's just 2 that are bothering me. I can't imagine 7 in a room.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah,
maybe 2. I actually have like what I call cat traps. Strategic spots, like this little basket she's in is one that there's a little heating pad in there for her too.
Yeah, I saw that she was
I have a basket there and a basket there.
So they go and they lay down in those.
So yeah, they're usually pretty chill and don't bother me. One of them is very attracted to the sound of my voice, so if I'm talking, she'll come and like want to get attention.
That's Thor, because my 2 boys is Thor and Loki. Thor, when I'm doing my lives, I do writing sprints every week. And if he's in the room with me, it's fine as long as I'm typing. But when we come off on the break and we're talking about how we're doing, then he wants my attention. I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
this guy is Osiris. He is, or Ozzy, I call him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in love with the kitten and he won't leave her alone. So.
All right, so my second one.
Mm-hmm.
One of my female main characters counts numbers when she becomes anxious. One of my female main characters stutters when unsure or having feelings of self-doubt. One of my male main characters walks backwards when he's deep in thought.
I think the walking backwards one is a lie.
Yes, you got it.
But I don't know. I mean, that's a weird quirk, but it might be a little too weird. The other ones are sort of normal.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was just a little too weird, but I couldn't think of anything to put. All right.
It would be funny though.
Yeah, maybe I should do it eventually.
Huh.
All right. Did you have another one?
Yes, I do. I have another one. My first dragon story was inspired by the video game Tomb Raider. I write all of my first drafts with a vintage fountain pen and ink because I think it immerses me more into the fantasy genre. And my love of writing caught fire after reading video game fan fiction.
All right, so I think the last one's true. I thought that you'd mentioned that your first story was inspired by something else, not by what you said. I don't remember what you said there. But I can't imagine you writing all first drafts with the ink pen or fountain pen.
Nope.
So it's number 2.
I thought it would be pretty cool, but yeah, that I'm not I don't like to handwrite things unless I absolutely have to. So yeah, but my first dragon story, Sleeping Dragons, which I showed, was inspired by the video game Tomb Raider. So it's got a whole treasure hunting.
Yeah. I know somewhere I thought you were inspired by something.
Dragon Age, that video game inspired a different fan fiction.
Okay.
I mean, this was not. It wasn't actually a fan fiction. It was just I want to write about a heroine who is a treasure hunter who finds a temple with hibernating dragons in it. And that's, that's the premise. She's a Lara Croft sort of character, but she finds hibernating dragons, and that's like her whole goal. She knows the dragons exist and she wants to prove it. Oh, 7 years with a fountain pen. Ugh.
Yeah.
I did go look up like antique fountain pens and found some really pretty ones, and I thought that would be so cool, but
there you go.
oh, cool.
Nice. All right.
And my Dragon Age fanfic is a Witcher crossover, actually. So
a Winter crossover?
The Witcher?
Oh, Witcher crossover. Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. My favorite place to write is in a coffee shop. I write almost all of my writing notes by hand, despite a wrist injury. There are times when I'm not writing, when I recall my stories like memories, as if they actually happened.
That one's hard. I think maybe the first one is the lie.
There you go. You got it. Yes, the coffee shop.
I actually write most of my stories in a coffee shop. I go to Starbucks 4 days a week and meet a friend there for a few hours, and that's where I do most of my writing. I can't write at home as well, so
I can't write with other people around me, and especially not a coffee shop when I don't know anybody, because I am far too introverted, and I would just be constantly feeling people watching me. Even if they weren't, it'd still feel like people were watching me, and I just couldn't do it.
I don't like to go alone, so it's better with another person. So yeah.
I was part of a group in Hawaii, and my husband was military. I was for a little bit as well, as where I met him, but he retired from the military, so we had orders in Hawaii, and there was a group called Shut Up and Write there, which is actually worldwide. But you would get together in usually a local place, and you would come, you could talk for a few minutes, get to know everyone. And then you just shut up and you write. And we just all sat there and wrote. And we did it in this huge cafeteria in a mall in downtown Honolulu. And that was even hard for me. And there's tons of people that are writing, but it would take me a while to get out of my head and thinking of people, everyone around me, and all these people coming by with their trays and their food and all these smells and sounds. And I was just like, I didn't ever write as much as I really wanted to when I did those things.
Yeah, it can definitely be distracting. So I bring my headset and turn on music if I need to. So we go really early in the morning. So there's like the morning rush, but then once that dies down, it's pretty
really
low
quiet,
key.
probably. Yeah. I bet the atmosphere of a coffee shop without all the people would be really nice.
Yeah. And the baristas know us, and so they're really nice too.
Yeah, same, Kiko. I just can't do it. I don't even like going on my front door. I don't like it. I don't like going on my front door and feeling like my neighbors are seeing me. That just gets on me. So it's just, if I never had to go out my front door, I wouldn't. But I have a kid and I go to the gym, so I do go out the front door. But all right, that was it. That's all I have. I think we talked about just doing 3. But did you make another one that you want to do, or are you good?
No, that's it.
Okay, awesome. Cool. All right, so then we'll go ahead and get ready for our writing sprint. And again, was author's choice, and Ophelia chose to have a random fantasy prompt. So I have a list of random fantasy prompts from which we've been pulling from the other random ones. And then there's been a couple who wanted a prompt ahead of time, so they've already pulled from it. So I would like you to choose a number between 1 and 28, but not, make sure I get all these here, not 12, 13, 17, or 20, or 27.
Okay.
Sorry. Should I write those down? I should write those down. Unless you already have one in mind. Do you have one in mind already?
How about 7? Is 7 an option?
It is an option. Okay. All right. I realize we had already gone through so many of these. Okay. I read this one before. I don't like to write in contemporary times, but this could be used for an older setting. And I thought this would be really cool to write a story around. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. Let me just add this to a banner. Okay, so in a world where people receive tattoos that reveal their destiny, A tattoo artist falls in love with a customer whose tattoo foretells a tragic fate. That's not really a love story. So I wouldn't make it a tragic fate, but maybe
That
he hopes
is,
her to, or him to avoid a tragic fate. Let me try and find the right button. There we go. All right, this will be a 30-minute writing sprint. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And for those in the chat, you guys, you don't have to use this prompt if you don't want to. If it doesn't work for you, you can do whatever you need to do. We got 30 minutes. We'll be doing a sprint for, so whatever works for you guys. All right, we're starting in 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. How many things do we need? Not sure.
No, it's the start of a story. It isn't the whole story.
Yeah. 30 minutes is really, unless you type like really, really fast.
Yeah.
I don't type fast. I honestly, I just made notes for a story. So
I always dive in and see where it goes,
I decided to switch it up a little bit. Instead of like the tattoos revealing their destiny, I made it where the tattoo artist can see their destiny. So he's like the only one who can see it in their tattoos. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. See, mine, it's more, he can't see it. He doesn't know it. People want him to tell them, but he can't. And he doesn't discover it until it's tattooed. So I got about 641 words, though.
Nice. Mine's all handwritten, so I don't know how many words. But, 641 words, that's pretty good. Yeah. Well, I type really slow, so anybody else can go much more than me easily.
And I was going back and like, oh shoot, I wrote this in present tense and I want to be in past tense. And I kept switching.
It's a first draft or a zero. I always call mine a zero draft because I don't really know what the story is going to be until I write it the first time. I'm like, oh, that's where it's going to go. Okay, let's go ahead and get the first draft done. Nia came in right as we went on the sprint. Hello. Rachel shared a little bit. She was an ink witch by trade who knew the fates of those who walked in and out of her family's shop until him. The ink disappeared as soon as it was inlaid. Oh, that's a different twist on it, which meant only death. But whose? His, hers, or the death of many? Being an unruly descendant, she breaks the number one rule that could spell the end of her powers and tries to change fates. She has to stop him somehow. Yeah, me too. But in her venture, she finds that this person, not so much hateful, despite the more desperate situation, as he's kindly and pressing on life. I think I'm missing something there. Extraordinary powers, or extraordinary happens, his own tattoo returns. Not death, but rebirth of her own, or like a phoenix. That's really cool. Angela came by, smashing the thumb. Thank you. Really want a nap. Me too. Hey, Rachel from Nia. Kiko says, got inspired to change a character's backstory a bit and take stuff I want to do later directly from the beginning to make this character more interesting. Nice. Inspired by the writing prompt as well, not just this one. Okay, cool. If anybody has any last questions that you would like to ask the author, we're going to start wrapping up the show, but we will definitely take a moment to stop by and see if there's any other questions. So before we do wrap up the chat, Ophelia, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're working on next and when it might come out? And I know you have that special edition coming out, but you have something else you're working on too?
Yes, the special edition is one thing. I have the second book in Lords of Pandemonium, which is called The Brothers Bane, which is, I don't know, probably September. I haven't written it yet. Okay. I haven't started it. So okay. There is that. I have a lot of other projects I'm working on, but that one is going to be a continuation because Sign of Chaos leaves on a cliffhanger. And it's going to focus more on the heroine, like discovering herself. She's and learning more about all the mystical creatures she's falling for. One of them, the Brothers Bane, specifically refers to Tartarus and his two brothers, who are Typhon and Erebus.
Okay.
And the three of them, and kind of how they interact, and how they kind of work together, and also have like fraternal conflict, I guess, because Tartarus has done a thing that the others don't really like, and so they might have a hard time forgiving him. So there's that. I'm also trying to write a book 6 in my contemporary series, The Fall of the Amador Cartel, And that's something I want to try to do first, but it's been hard. I've been trying to outline it, and I should know better, because that trying to do that always slows me down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just need to dive in.
So I know you mentioned that you have quite a few books out. How long is your timeline usually? Like when you start, like how many books do you typically get out in a year? Or I don't know the right question to ask here. Like I know we had an author on a few days ago where she knows like one day 32. She has a book from idea to publication. She's done in 32 days. I'm like, wow, that's really fast. But I don't know if especially if you're working on multiple projects, it's probably not like a setup the same for all the books, right?
I used to be a lot faster. Everything slowed down over COVID, and it took me twice as long to finish anything. I'm typically a fast writer if I'm focused, and I can finish a book in a month, but I haven't in a long time. So I don't know. If once I focus, it'll be pretty quick. But
Gotcha.
Sign of Chaos, I think, took 6 months to write.
Hmm.
And that's not like dedicated everyday writing. It's just, my husband caught COVID and I got derailed, and stuff happens. And, I'm heavily into like trying to market my backlist now, since I'm like, okay, these books aren't selling the way they need to. I want to figure out how to make them sell.
Gotcha.
And so I got distracted with that. So. But
I do think about it. I don't really write fast. I can dictate fast.
That's good.
And like you, I could get a book done in a month if that's all I'm doing. But that's not all I do. I do YouTube. I have the conference. I have my podcast. I have the marketing, the author business side. It's just so much. If I didn't do anything else but write, I could write a lot. But
I have 6 books a month, 6 books a year. I think 6 or 7 has been my best pace.
Mine's been 2. So I don't write real fast. Like I'm thinking about the book I just went back to writing it because I had finished up a not short story, ended up being a novel. It was a stretch goal as part of my Kickstarter. So I did an alternate point of view. It was another romance happening in the background. So it was an alternate point of view story. And it was just supposed to be a short story turned into a novel. So I just finished that. I had started the second book of my series, but now I'm writing back my second book again. And I looked at my timeline of when I started. I started it last year in February. So it's like, yeah, okay. I just have too many things going on.
Yeah, Sign of Chaos started NaNoWriMo 2022, I think, and I published it about a little less than a year later.
Yeah.
So yeah, normally I don't like to take that long to write a book, but things have been.
I don't want to take that long anymore.
Yeah.
I want to go faster.
Yeah. I hope to get back to a quicker pace soon, but
good luck to us.
What it is. Yeah, you too.
All right. So before we end the show, please tell everyone where they can find you and purchase your books.
I am everywhere. You linked to my shop. You can find me on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes and Noble, Google Play. I'm on a couple serial apps, Radish and Galatea, and iReader also. You can find my books there. You can find audiobooks of mine on Audible and Everand and Apple and everywhere else. They're on Spotify also. Yeah, I'm kind of everywhere. I think I might be in libraries too, but I don't check that as often. But yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and giving us some, look at what you're writing and tell us a little bit about your book and all that. I did love hearing about Scion because I just started that today. So, and hearing you talk about it, I was like, oh, okay, that's where that's coming from. That's where it's going to go. It's really interesting. I can't wait to get to those parts. So
yeah, you have to let me know what you think.
I will. Thank you, everyone else who joined us today and those who are joining us on the replay. Next on Charm Chats and Happily After Ever Sprints, I'll have guest author Caitlin Young on the show tomorrow. That's the 11th of February at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And that will do it. We'll see you guys all later. Bye.
Bye.